Thank you for your interest in Cyber Church of Christ. If it's the first time you've gone into YouTube, you'll see that we normally have topics and hundreds of them out there on our YouTube. But we'd love to hear from you or any questions you have, or we'll research question if you don't see a topic in there. So it doesn't matter. We want to give an answer to any Bible question you have. It's our commandment. And today's called a worship place. It's mainly just out of Acts 17. And, because I drove by a place that said House of God and Jesus lives here and some other things like that. Uh, and so I thought, well, that's what, and I know people go to a particular building because they think their prayer won't be heard somewhere else. So let's investigate that. So if we're going to start off with, does it even matter where, like what man would call a religious place, we worship our Father? Does that matter where we worship our Father? Because, do I need to go to a building, especially with Cyber Church of Christ? We're in the cyber world, which is on planet Earth, as you know, because you have internet if you're watching this. And so he can gather us together in one place. So that's one reason why we named our congregation Cyber Church of Christ. Let's start off with this Old Testament verse in Jeremiah 23:24. Can any hide himself in secret places that I shall not see him, saith the Lord? Do not I fill heaven and earth, saith the Lord? Oh, okay. Well, what about what happens is the person wanted to go to that building because it was a religious place, and that way they're, like I heard it on movies and TV, they're closer to God. Oh, okay. Well, Jeremiah 23:24 says he fills heaven and earth. So where exactly is God? He's here. That's where he is. Oh, so yes, you worship God anywhere because you're on planet Earth and there ain't no secret place. So that's one thing that you can start off to begin with. On, do I need to go to a particular place, a particular building just to worship? You mean like a secret place? No, you can't hide from that. Do not I fill heaven and earth? Okay, interesting. Let's look at Acts 17. We're going to start with verse 22. And what happens is Paul was was sent to Greece to teach some people there and get those into the kingdom that are believers. And so while he's there teaching the people, he runs across false doctrine things happening because Greece were known for for their logic and not being what man would call religious. Start with Acts 17:22. Then Paul stood in the midst of Mars Hill and said, Ye men of Athens. Okay, so he only spoke to the male. No, this men is male and female. I mention this almost in every sermon when it says he, himself, of men. He's talking about human, so male and female. Okay, ye men of Athens, I perceive that in all things ye are too superstitious. Oh, okay. As far as what? Well, as far as religion goes, as far as our Father and believing and all. Oh, okay. And what about us being superstitious? Well, let's look at verse 23. For I passed by and beheld your devotions. I found an altar with this inscription, to the unknown God, whom therefore ye ignorantly worship, him declare I unto you. So you can see here we got a lot of pronouns in here. And if you were to have been studying with us, we would end up going through all the pronouns. We'd have the you and the I and the him, which I would have a capital H there, me ignorantly worship, because Whom ye therefore in basically word to the unknown God. Well, you know why that's lowercase? Because that ain't the real God. Oh. Whom therefore ye ignorantly worship, declare I unto you. Now, what is this altar? Because the only time I really hear that in our society is at the wedding. Come to the altar and all. Now, in the Church of Christ, many call that communion table where you set out the bread and the fruit of the vine as the altar. They use that as a scripture. So that's about the only time I hear the word altar as far as Bible goes. But here that we do have a definition. If you just look up in the Greek or the Hebrew, it'll just say altar. But this is the Google definition. Altar, the table or a flat top block used as the focus for a religious ritual, especially for making sacrifices or offerings to a deity. Okay, so in Abraham's time, they used the altar. You set up an altar, and it was a particular way you set the rocks and all that. You could study that. And then once we got Jesus sacrificed, then what? Well, now we don't build a rock deal. We have Jesus as the high priest, and it's not required to have an altar. That's why it's only mentioned a few times. I think only 3 times in the New Testament. But altar is mentioned many, many times in the Old Testament, and that's why. So this altar is usually so like I said, most time I see that is in a wedding. They'll say, come to the altar, and do this. So anyway, that's interesting. So what did Paul see? Well, he saw this table there, and where you do sacrifices and religious stuff. And then instead of pinpointing who that's for, well, they just say the unknown God. Well, reminded me of the phrase, go to the church of your choice. I used to hear that a lot. Okay. So you could just go does that make it an unknown God? Well, it seemed like it. This would mean that you don't know our real Father. Okay. So let's continue with the quote here. Acts 17:24. God that made the world and all things therein, seeing that he is Lord of heaven and earth, dwelleth not in temples made with hands. Well, that answered that. I went by the deal that a sign, God lives here. I go, well, Acts 17:24 says he doesn't dwell in temples made with hands. Do you guys make that building with hands? Well, yeah, of course. It's a man-made building. There's no question about that. The Lord dwelleth not in temple. Okay, so the sign was wrong. It said that he dwells there. Oh, God made the world, all things therein, seeing that he is Lord of heaven and earth, dwelleth not in temples made with hands. Interesting. Neither, let's look at verse 25, neither is worshipped with men's hands. I see that on TV a lot. These they're worshiping to make them feel good. Everybody raises their hand. They're not teaching any Bible, any scriptures, but they're doing a praise thing. Excuse me a second. And using their hands. Okay. Well, what are you guys at Cyber Church of Christ? What are you worshiping the Father with? You're not going to use your hand. Our spirit, our soul. The soul's doing the worshiping. Oh, I mean, all of you have a spirit and a soul in you. Father gave it to you. Okay, so the God that dwelleth not in temples, not worship with men's hands, as though he needed anything. And who's the he here? Our Father. Seeing he giveth to all life and breath and all things. Okay, don't forget whose creation this is. Yeah. And also, I had to abbreviate some of these references and stuff because there was so many. It was taking up like 3 lines. So that just shows you how important this is. All right, let's look at verse 26. Since you're talking about not being a building and not worshiping with hands, and hath made of one blood all nations of men for to dwell on all the face of the earth. Okay, time out there. You said he had made, what do you mean one blood, all nations? We're actually all brethren. We're not brethren in the Lord, but brethren as far as human beings. Who is your neighbor? We have a lesson on neighbor. Your neighbor is who's ever living on planet Earth same time you are. Oh, and there's only one blood. I know, but we have like war. You mean like wars and rumors of wars and shedding of blood because of nations? Yeah. But here we're reminded that all men have a spirit from God and blood in whatever nation they live in, if they even live in one, okay, to dwell on the face of the earth. All comes from one Father. So he's teaching. He saw a sign that was bogus on their altar and then says, hey, let me tell you about the real deal here. This Father, our Father, had made one blood of all nations of men to dwell on the face of the earth, all the face of the earth, and hath determined the times before appointed. Well, what? Oh yeah, the Father's in charge of time. Oh, yeah, he created time. When you're looking at the spin of the earth and calling it a days, yeah, well, that's just you measuring. Yeah. So times appointed and the bounds of their habitation. Okay, well, who is this pronoun there? There. Well, here, this nations of men. These nations of men have what now? They have bounds of their habitation. Okay, it's not like we're stuck here, but no, it didn't have. Okay, well, what if the guy lives on the space station? I don't know. Is that part of the creation? Oh, do they have one blood like us? Yeah. Okay. What do you mean by determined? I mean, I got to look at this phrase here because you got my attention. Hath determined the times before appointed. So Father's in charge of time, began time, and he's going to end time? Correct. Oh. And when is that? Well, even Jesus doesn't know, and the angels don't know when the earth ends. Well, if you're listening to this, you need to think about when you die before think about the earth ending. Because once the earth ends, we don't have a chance to spread God's word to people, try to save them from the lake of fire. So, no, that's a sad thing. Now, is it a happy thing for those that are in the kingdom and know they're going to heaven with their faith? Well, yeah, but we're trying to save others besides ourselves. That's why the Cyber Church of Christ even exists. Right. We're warning you to get into the kingdom. Oh, anyway, so he's explaining to these guys about the unknown God. Let me tell you about the real deal here. We're all one blood. We're all men, which meaning male and female. The time's already been appointed and the bounds of their habitation. Okay, well, I saw this picture from our satellite we sent in, like the telescope, and it showed that Earth was a little bitty spot in the universe. Yep, sure is. Oh, there's your bound by the habitation. You're in the universe. So no, your guys on the space station. Yeah, they're still that's their habitation. It's still considered Earth. Still considered part of creation. Oh, and that's pretty interesting. Let's move on. We got Acts 17, 27, and 28. We'll finish with, which I think is very important because I'm trying to stress that the doctrine is not in a building. Okay, I understand. I saw your sign. God lives here. Do I know what you're talking about? Obviously. But we have Acts 17 to say, no, the Father fills the whole planet, and you should be doing what? Seeking the Lord. Let's look at 17:27. That they should seek the Lord, if haply they might feel after him and find him, though he be not far from every one of us. Okay, so he created a creation and then went away? No. He's right there. You have a spirit from God that's given you at birth, and you have a soul that you're going to have information on. Soul's going to be judged. Yeah. Okay, well, he's not far away. What can he be far away? He's your creator. So no, he's not in a place. He's not far away. He's here. Wherever you are, he's here. Well, no wonder we can pray anywhere, at any time, from any place. Because why? He heareth us that do his will. He heareth us because why? Because he's not far away. He's right there. We know he fills heaven and earth. Let's look at verse 28 to finish today. For in him, this is our Father, for in him we live and move and have our being. As certain also of your own poets have said, for we are also his offspring. So some of your poets, and they're speaking of the Greek poets, because especially at this time, during the first century, you had a lot of philosophy, and smart guys and all that. The people are too smart for the doctrine, by the way. Yeah, and that's what he was running into. But he's got, you know what? He's going to teach. There's people there to hear, and he's going to teach. That's what we do. Yeah, we know he saw the sign, but no, we don't have a. If you're just talking specifically about the Cyber Church of Christ, no, our building is planet Earth. Oh, yeah, and we're worshiping our Father. So yeah, we actually are on the internet, and we can worship the Father because why? Well, he fills heaven and earth. He's here. Yeah, so we don't need a building. I just read Acts 17. He's not in a building. He didn't even live in a building. So no, that's the thing of man. Man thinks that, oh, I'll do this. One guy says he sinned and needed to go to church. Where is that? I know you're supposed to ask for forgiveness from our Father who's in heaven. And where are you exactly? Planet Earth. Doesn't matter you're in some building somewhere or your house. Yes. So anyway, I didn't know what to name today's lesson other than worship place, because this had several topics in it. But what we want to do is remember that we don't need a special place to honor our Father, to praise our Father, to worship our Father. Now, is there a time and place to worship our Father in spirit and in truth and to remember his Son? Yeah, that's on the first day of the week. Okay, well, it says you have to gather together. That's right. Well, did he say that you have to gather together in a building? No, he said gather together the spirits there that are going to worship him. So this may explain a little more on the Cyber Church of Christ when someone would ask me, how come you don't have a building? Well, our building is planet Earth. And according to this Acts 17, God lives there. He's everywhere. So no, we don't need a building to see where God lives. We don't need people say, I feel religious when I walked into the building. Well, you should always honor your Father, do the Father's will, regardless of where you are on planet Earth. Anyway, I hope you learned a little bit today. It's always our goal to teach. We're the Cyber Church of Christ. You can always contact us at cybercochrist@gmail.com, which we've gotten comments and we reply to your comments and we want them. But more than ever, we'd like to have you come study with us and worship with us. And we're easy to contact. We love our Father, and we want you to be saved in the end as much as we want to be saved in the end. The world's an evil place, but we have our Father. It's his creation. Don't forget that. And he's here regardless of where you are. Anyway, I hope you got something out of today's lesson. Just remember, we love you and we want you to be saved in the end.